Imagine a lady visited PS with an allegation that in her name a fake Facebook account has been created, and the lady also complains that on the last night one lascivious picture on her has been uploaded on the same fake account, Facebook account, or the same account. And now in today's video I'm going to discuss about what that lady requires to what the lady should do, and how the investigating agency will investigate with the help of the URL of that fake Facebook account and ultimately reach to the real offender's house, so or the suspect's house. So that is the subject today of this video, and you are requested to watch this video till the end, because it will going to give all the investigating agencies and the law enforcement agencies, other stakeholders of law enforcement agencies, the different stakeholders of judicial structure, for lawyers, for public prosecutors, and for the judicial officers who are to adjudicate any kind of crime like this. This is one of the model type of investigation I am going to discuss in this video, and it is a general thing, and I will request you to rely on other resources as well as and change your blueprint of investigations as required, as case to case. And I'll again request you, please watch this video till the end, and again you are further requested to subscribe to my video so that you can get the different incoming videos, notification of incoming videos. Please watch this video. This is very important video, because in my experience I have seen that in lot of cases the investigating agency has to file FRT or FRMF, that is the investigation resulted into null. No development is been made in the investigations, because at the beginning the initial point of investigations will start from the URL, and that URL has to be supplied by the complainant himself or herself. So please preserve your URL and provide the URL to your investigating officer, and you can mention the URL in your complaint as well, and that is one of the best way. And also you have to take out some screenshot of the pages, carrying the same URL, so that the investigating agency will continue and proceed further to find out who is the real offender, and thereby find out the real culprit. So today's video we're going to discuss about a very model and very important and significant ways of how to investigate cybercrime cases, and the entire traceability path I have discussed through a PowerPoint presentation in this video. And please watch this video till the end. You will get a fair bit of notions or idea about what you should do and what you should not do, and to understand this entire video you might have some basic conception on what is internet service provider, what is IP address, what is URL, and all this, and I have discussed all these concepts in my this video. So this video is for any layman who has not that in-depth technical knowledge or technical know-how. So this video is for common people as well as the investigating agencies and other stakeholders of the judicial system. URL is is an abbreviation form of Uniform Resource Locator. So it's a uniform locator of the computer resources. So now what is the purpose of URL? It is an address or reference to a computer resource on the internet, and it is an identifier of a page on the virtual world. So the main point is that an URL always going to define a page or a identity or a computer resource in the virtual world or in the computer world. So URL is the basic point of any kind of fact-finding mission, that is in investigations or other part. And in today's video I'm going to discuss about how the URL is going to be helpful for the investigating officer to crack the ultimate offender or the suspect. Different part of an URLs. So URL has the following has different parts. One part is the protocol identifier, that is HTTP and all or HTTPS. that is a protocol identifier, and there are other parts. If you study the URL, we'll first get a protocol identifier that is in the form of HTTP or HTTPS, and then the rest of the part is the name of the computer resource, and within that computer resource the first part may be the domain name, and the other part is the path which is going to define the entire resource. So within a URL we're going to primarily going to get a protocol identifier, and then we're going to get the name of computer resources, and within the computer resources there are domain name and there is path. So let us take an example to that effect. Say for example my own the URL of my YouTube account. So here is there is HTTP, and this HTTP is a protocol identifier, and youtube.com is the domain name, and c/Bivas Chatterjee is the path, and that is there in this URL. So the URL is one of the single most important and significant factor in cybercrime investigations or in investigations when a complainant file a complaint that a fake account has been created, and in order to crack who is the person who created this account, and in order to crack the person who has uploaded something or logged into in the account and on the relevant point of time commit the crime, the URL is going to provide us the real answer to that thing. So the significance of URL for a common man, non-technical common man's perspective, if you open a page on your computer and or laptop, you will see at the top of the page there is a header. You can commonly call it a header. It starts from HTTP, and even sometimes starts from www, HTTP, HTTPS and all this. So this is actually and then the other part are there, and this is the URL, and for a person's if he wants to get any kind of relief to a fake account or any or if he wants to have some relief on this parlance, he has to preserve the text of the URL of his case. Otherwise the investigating officer cannot even initiate the investigation for want of URL. So even when a layman or a common man is aggrieved of a crime that in his or her name a fake account has been created in any portal or any page, so the first and primary duty of that person when he or she is filing the complaint is to mention that URL in his or her complaint, so that the investigating agency will going to start the investigations from the URL itself. So when filing complaint against any allegations arising out of computer resource, one has to mention the URL in the said complaint to help start investigations for his or her reliefs. So URL is one of the single most initiator of the investigation of today's cybercrime cases. So the significance of URL for an investigating officer, it is the starting point of an investigation. At the beginning, an investigating officer has to inspect the URL and obviously collect the text for documentation. Collecting URL text for documentation means, say for example, the lady may come or the person may visit with an allegations carrying some screenshot, and those screenshots carrying the URL itself. And when these screenshots are seized, then and within the four corner of the investigations, the URL is there, and this Caesar list and this Caesar article combine to form a good documentations by which this entire evidence will come. Because in cybercrime investigations or cybercrime cases, one of the most important perspective is that every step has to be documented, and this is one of the reasons. That is why the seizure of the screenshot, electronic evidence in other form may be taken carrying the URL of that concerned page, and the URL is going to define the same page. So what is IP address? For a common man's perspective, where when you are logged into internet, when you are connecting your device with the internet, say through via it may be via wireless, or it may be clicking the mobile data, and whatever way you want. The time you connect your device with the internet, you are allocated with an IP address by your service provider, and
and you are always carrying that IP whenever you are roaming about in the virtual world. So the IP may be dynamic, it may be static, maybe that is IP may be given for a particular time, particular date, or maybe the IP is constant for you, that is a static IP. So dynamic, it may be dynamic IP like changing IP, and it may be static IP which is constant and provided to you by the service provider. That means IP is being provided by the service provider to you. Now comes to how you can understand as a common man or layman what is your IP when you are in the internet. So when you are in the internet, you go to the browser, any of the browser, it may be Google or anything, and just type what is my IP. And if you type what is my IP, you're going to get your IP address which has been allocated to you by the service provider at that point of time or at that on that day. So I am showing a demo to that effect. So if you type the what is my IP, you're going to get the IP address of your own. Now, one interesting point I must mention in this respect is that a long age-old conception is propounded by Edmond Locard, and it is popularly called the Locard exchange principle. And as per that principle, every contact leaves a trace. So this contact leaves a trace is an age-old concept, is equally applicable in case of cybercrime investigations, because if an offender who has been allocated with an IP address, whenever you are logging into the suspect's fake account, in the fake account created by him or any other one, so every time when he is logging into, he or she is logging into, he is leaving some trace of IP address into the log of that page or particular account. So that is the thing, that this age-old concept of Dr. Edward Locard is still applicable in today's investigation parlance, because everywhere, like a footprint in physical world, the IP address will always be a footprint whenever and will be an identifier of an accused or a suspect whenever and whatever he is doing in the virtual world. Now we are going to take an example today, a case studies or an example that a lady, now with the help of those conceptions, I have already discussed about what is URL. So an URL, every time you carry the URL and type the URL into the browser, the same page will going to open. So URL is identifying a page or a computer resource for you. Now coming to internet service provider. Who are the internet service provider? The service provider who is providing internet service to you is your internet service provider. This ISP, the internet service provider, has has to sign agreement with Government of India, and they are to follow lot of compliance to the law enforcement agencies and others for the lawful investigations and other things. So and then comes the concept of I already discussed about IP address. That IP address is nothing but a communications mode. When an IP is been given to you, you are communicating with others carrying your IP with the other's IP. So this IP address is working as a communications mode between the networks and the server. So IP address has a huge role to play. Now come to after going through all these discussions and fundamental concepts, now there are other things as well, other information identifier. Say for example, for a mobile phone there is an IMEI number, for other things, a computer, a laptop, it may be a MAC address and other things. So these are some of the identifier of the hardware itself. So now today's case is very simple. A lady or a person visits a PS with allegations that a fake account has been created in his or her name, and that in that fake Facebook account at a given point of time on a given date some lascivious photos has been posted by the offender. So I'm going to discuss about my rest of the videos, how these investigations will be cracked, how the investigating agency starting from the URL ultimately enter or reach to the house of the offender. So the first step is the collections of URL text. So now the investigating officer has to siege, say for example, investigating officer has to siege electronic documents from complainant or otherwise which will have URL mentioned into it. So say for example, officer may make scissor list, officer may make scissor list or of screenshots of fake accounts carrying the URL of the page along with statement under section 65B of Indian Evidence Act duly issued by the concerned person. So if a person visits to the PS with allegations that some fake account has been created on his or her name, so during the investigation, the investigating officer will going to collect the some screenshot carrying those URLs, which is going to identify the page, and the officer should make seizure of those pages. And when the seizure is been made, as because the electronic document in the form of screenshot or any other thing or through any other media was been given by the is been provided by the complainant or the aggrieved, the complainant or the aggrieved should give a statement under section 65B of an Indian Evidence Act to prove those electronic documents. Now to proceed further into the investigation of the said case, the investigating officer, after inspecting the IP address and all this, he will going to get the domain name, and that domain name provides the actual intermediaries who can provide the investigating agency with the relevant IP address as regards to that URL. So those URLs. So investigating officer will send requisition or write to the service intermediaries with asking for fake account creation details. It may be creation IP creation IP of that account, and also login details with respect to, and in case of login details, with respect to login details, an investigating officer may provide the date and time into it, and when those lascivious pictures, alleged lascivious pictures was uploaded. So that will pinpoint the investigation in favor of the investigating agencies, because otherwise there will be a lot of logins, lot of IPs if it's dynamic IPs, and then the investigation will become investigating procedure will become cumbersome. So so investigating officer will in case of, if it's a fake Facebook account, will ask the Facebook for creation IP and the login details or login IP with respect to a certain date and time. So after getting the request from the investigating officer, the intermediary, Facebook or any other company who originates those URL will going to provide, who has the domain name mentioned into it, will going to provide the IP address. And now what an investigating officer is going to do with this IP address provided by this intermediary? Say for example, if the Facebook going to provide the IP address, what the investigating officer is going to do with this IP address? Now the point is, if you have an IP address and you want to know that who is the internet service provider who allocated this IP address, then you have to put this IP address into a box after searching in the browser with the IP lookup tools. So very simply stated in this way, if the investigating officer obtained the IP address from the Facebook, he will going to open the browser, and in the browser he will going to type the IP lookup, and after opening the IP lookup, lot of pages will be open, and he can open any of the page which he likes, and after opening any of the page, he will going to give it a box into it, and within the box he can put that IP and search for it, and he will going to get the ISP who allocated this IP. So wherefrom we got the internet service provider of the offender. So I'll give an example to this. Say for example, if an investigating officer search with the identifier IP lookup, a lot of pages will be open, and a lot of sites will be open. He can open any of the pages he wants. So after opening that page, there will be a box, and the IP obtained from the Facebook will be provided into it, and the internet service provider who allocated those IP will be obtained by the investigating agencies. So after obtaining the ISP and IP, and obviously in the complaint the relevant date and time, now it is time for the only one job remaining. There is only one main job remaining, that is the investigating officer will going to ask the internet service provider that whom on that date, on that point of time, you have provided with that IP or those IPs, because I have already discussed about that IP is always been allocated by the internet service provider. So and obviously we are very close to the suspect, and these are procedure of asking the details maybe done in the form maybe asked in the form of IP log or IPDR or IP allocation details after providing the IP's date, time, which has already been obtained by the investigating officer. So the investigating officer will write to the internet service provider for a request for asking for IP log or IPDR or IP allocation details with respect to a date, time and IPs. So thereafter, as the investigating officer proceed with the investigations, after obtaining the IP log or IPDR or IP allocation details, it is time to analyze the same. It is these IPDR may be like the CDR and informations, or a Excel sheet or a presentation like CDR. There are differences of entries between IPDR and CDR. So in the IPDR or in the IP log, the investigating officer is going to get the mobile number or the IMEI number along with the other informations. You're going to get the cell ID, and that cell ID can be decoded to get the actual tower location of the offender. So from this, the investigating officer ultimately reach to the user details of the persons who have created or uploaded those lascivious picture, who has created the fake account or uploaded those lascivious picture on that particular date on a particular time. So the investigating officer has reached very near to the closing of investigations. Now after obtaining this entire IP log and all this, the investigating officer is going to get the MSDN, the number, connection number, the IMEI number and all this, and from the connection number the investigating officer can ask for the customer application form. That is, whenever we are taking any connections and all this from the service provider, we are filling up a page and we are filling up a form and providing our different informations, and also provide the copies of our identity documents like Aadhaar card, voter card and all this, and we are mentioning our name, and we also provide our passport size photo and all this. And if the account is not in the fake name and properly been verified before issuing the SIM card and all this, then the real offender relying on may be arrested by the investigating agency, relying on all these inputs or leads which I have already mentioned in this video earlier, and obviously other points to be explored before nabbing the real culprit. Because if for example there are contrary to this concept, if say for example I am having a connections and I have a Wi-Fi connections which can be given at least 4 or 5 persons at a time, and somebody visits to my house or your house and use the same public IP, and using the same he is doing any crime and all this, then ultimately the offending MAC address are to be collected from the investigation input. Otherwise there might be injustice or human rights violation to that effect. So there are other different issues, there are different cases. I have only discussed about a model case, and obviously I must say that I have not given any advice to this video to any particular case, to any particular officer. This is a general notions of traceability path, and it differs from case to case, and you are requested to refer to other resources and change everything, and change the minute details depending on your peculiarity of your case. So step may not be so simple sometimes, or it may be that or same in all cases, and there are issues on data provided by the intermediaries which may complicate the investigations of a particular case. Say for example, for a particular time and date, several IPs been provided, there is a netting problem and all these issues are there. So these are very focusing point, very finer points which are to be dealt in my I'm going to deal with all this in different videos. And obviously the legal perspective of all this, say for example, the investigation started from the URL, and from step 1 to last step, all these things are to be documented and seized and are to be exhibited in the court, and then the entire chain of these investigations will be clear before the judicial authority to adjudicate the case. So and I'm going to also make a video on this, that on the subject, that after obtaining the details of the person in whose name this service is being provided, or in whose name this mobile connection is being given, how we are going to make seizure of the mobile phone or the hard disk of a laptop if is in use in his house, and all this, and how this been investigated forensically through forensic expert. I'm going to discuss all this in a separate video. Thank you for giving a patient hearing to this video. I think this video is going to be great help to those people, and also for the common people. I am again requesting, please preserve your URL text and don't delete it till at least IP address been collected by the investigating agencies. And for the investigating agencies, they will always insist to the complaint to obtain the URL or the documents which carries the URL, because a particular URL is also defining a page. So thank you for watching this. I will come with another interesting video in the days to come.